guys, it's Amy here, and today I'm going to be talking about the non-fiction I read so far in 2016. So if you've been around since the beginning of the year, you'll know that I've challenged myself to read one non-fiction book every month in 2016, which would be 12 books by the end of 2016. So I've actually read more than one non-fiction book a month from the beginning of the year, so I'm going to talk about the books that I've read from January to March, and then maybe every 3 months I'm just going to do a little update and tell you the thoughts and feelings I have on those books. I'm going to go from my lowest rating to my highest rating. These books I've already talked about in all of my wrap-ups throughout the year, so if you are an avid watcher of my wrap-ups, you'll know my thoughts on these books already, but if maybe you are just interested in non-fiction and what I have to say about that, then these videos will be good for you. So let's stop talking and let's get on with it. The first book I have to talk about is Let's Explore Diabetes with Owls, which is by David Sedaris. This is my only 1-star book of the year so far. I hated this book. It was really, really bad. So this one is basically a kind of anecdotal memoir type thing where David Sedaris talks about things from his childhood and various stories from his life and makes them funny. Funny being the not so correct word there, because this book was not funny at all. Like, I don't understand how anyone could find what's written in this book to be anywhere near funny. In this book, David Sedaris manages to single out and insult so many different kind of minorities and groups of people. I honestly have no idea how the publishers allowed this to be printed. It's just awful. To be honest, he came across as a very arrogant and pig-headed man, and I don't think I will ever pick up anything from him ever again. The next one I have to talk about is Everyone Hanging Out Without Me by Mindy Kaling. This one I gave 2 stars to, and I've actually already given it away because I didn't enjoy it. I think the only reason I didn't enjoy this one is because I didn't know enough about Mindy Kaling to begin with, and I didn't really care about her life, I guess. I've only ever seen her in the TV show The Mindy Project, and I really enjoyed that, but a lot of this book concentrated on The Office, which I haven't seen. Again, in this book, I don't know whether it's just something to do with comedians and the way I read them, but she came across as quite an arrogant person, and I didn't really like that, because in The Mindy Project I find her really, really funny, and I just didn't find her funny in this book, so that was a shame. Not to say I think it was a bad book. I honestly think that some people who have a bit more interest in her as a person would really love it, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. The next chunk of books are my 3-star books, and the first one I have here is Girl Interrupted by Susanna Kaysen. This one is a memoir from Susanna Kaysen talking about the time that she spent in a mental institution in the 1960s. She admitted herself into a women's correctional facility after the encouragement of a doctor she'd only met for a short amount of time, and she ended up in this facility for 2 years when she was 18. I enjoyed this book and I would recommend it to others, but I don't think I would personally read it again. It's a very short read and I just expected a little bit more. The information that was given was great, but I just wanted more. I wanted more of a discussion and I wanted more of the story, I guess. Throughout the book there are these scannings from the case notes from her doctors and nurses and what they were saying about her during the time, and she kind of speaks over those and kind of discusses what they say and stuff like that, and I found that really interesting. I personally find psychology and things to do with people's mental health to be really interesting, so if you have any recommendations for books that are similar to this but maybe with a bit more information, then definitely recommend them to me down below. My next 3-star book was Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom. In this one, Mitch Albom is speaking of a time when he goes back to visit his old university professor named Morrie. Every Tuesday he goes over to see Morrie and they discuss points of life and talking about all the different things, friends, family, love, everything basically, and ultimately they talk about death because Morrie has been diagnosed with ALS, the same motor neuron disease that Stephen Hawking has, and he doesn't have long to live. What I loved about this one is that I didn't realise it was a non-fiction book until I got a few pages in, and then when I did research on it, you can actually see Morrie, if you Google him on YouTube and things like that. He did a load of interviews before he died, and you can actually see who he was as a person and hear him talking about some of the things that he talks to Mitch about in this book. So it's really interesting and I would recommend it to all. Personally, I don't think I would read it again, that's why I gave it 3 stars, but overall it was a very heartwarming read and it gave me a lot of things to think about. My final 3-star book was I Call Myself a Feminist. This is the view from 25 women under 30, book that we read for the Feminist Orchestra Book Club that Jean over at Bookish Thoughts runs. I will leave a link to everything down below if you want to go and join. As you can see, I did a lot of kind of tabbing in this one because I had a lot of thoughts, and overall yes, it was a 3-star book. I don't think I would read it again. I would definitely pass it on to friends though, because I think it is a great one if you have not much knowledge on feminism already. If you don't really know where to begin and you just want to know kind of what it's about and why people call themselves feminist, this one I think would be perfect. Each woman in this book has a few pages where she talks about why she calls herself a feminist. The bits that I enjoyed the most in this book were from women of different nationalities to me. So the women who were like British or American kind of had very similar stories in kind of upbringing and kind of their views on feminism to me, like things that I'd already experienced or knew about. Whereas the women, I think there was a woman from like Pakistan and there was another woman from India and things like that, were talking about things that I personally hadn't experienced or that I wasn't fully aware of, and I found that really interesting, and I wanted to kind of look into more of what they were speaking about and research a bit more, which was really great. The only problem I did have was that I felt that the kind of segments that for these women to have were a little bit too short. And I know fitting 25 people into one book is a very hard thing to do. I do commend the people who created this book because they've done a very good thing. I think I just need to go and find the people that I really liked in this book and find more of what they've written and kind of see what else they speak about, because I just wanted more from each person basically. Also, between people they kind of have these like quotes and things from TV shows and music and different kind of people and things, which I did find really interesting, and there were ones that I wanted to kind of pick out and kind of go away and read those things as well. So very interesting read. Don't think I'd read it again, but I would recommend it to all. Okay, so moving on to the final two books that I have to talk about, and both of them were 4 stars. Both of them are very different. The first one I have here is A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. This is an extended essay taken from a lecture that Woolf did, I think in 1928. This one is a very kind of well-known essay highlighting feminist issues. In this one, Woolf talks of women and creativity and kind of how women produce things, and she talks about how if women had a physical and mental room of their own, if they had that space to create and produce, you know, things like men do, then throughout history we would be kind of up there with men as well, because we would have been given the chance to do that kind of stuff. What I love most about this one is that it isn't told in kind of the conventional kind of essay lecture type way. Virginia Woolf actually adopts a kind of narrative of her own, and she uses her own kind of separate narrative voice to discuss the points. So it's not just her talking, she kind of adopts this person to talk for her, and it's very interesting. Like, I can't really describe it in a very adequate way, so if you read the book you'll know what I'm talking about. If you like classics and you read things like Jane Austen, Shakespeare, Charlotte Bronte, anything like that, then I think you should pick this one up, because she does discuss over their kind of creative processes and how they came to be where they were, and it's just a really interesting little read. So I would highly recommend this one to all, and I know it's something I would definitely reread again in the future. Finally, the last book I'm going to talk about in this video is Hyperbole and a Half by Allie Brosh. This is a kind of graphic novel memoir type thing. I'll show you the inside. So basically Allie Brosh is taking funny things that have happened throughout her life and throughout her childhood and things, and she just puts these hilarious pictures with them, which are like awful little drawings, but they are hilarious. Like, I honestly think if I just read the words from this book, I wouldn't find it anywhere near as funny as it is with the pictures put with it, because the pictures are so like bad, they're really good. What made this book a 4-star read for me was the fact that not only does Allie Brosh talk about kind of really hilarious things that she had in her childhood and really funny things that have happened, she also tackles things like mental health, like depression and anxiety, and she brings those across in a really approachable way. Like, she draws them and she speaks about them in, yes, a comedic way, but also a way that is very relatable, and I really like that. So I would really recommend this one to everyone. It was such an easy and fun read. If you're looking for a laugh, this is definitely where you need to go. So there we are, those are all the non-fiction books that I've read from January to March. Let me know if you enjoyed this video, if it's something that you would like to see again in the future, maybe once I've read a few more non-fiction books. Let me know down below if you read any of these books and what you thought of them, or if you've been reading any non-fiction recently, and if you can recommend it to me, that would be great. As always, I will leave links to Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, everything I've mentioned today down below. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and I will see you soon. Bye! Up a fair few classics, enough to make their own video, so that is what we're going to be doing today. I've been picking up a mixture of modern and kind of older classics.